Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Jaimee Stuart, Senior Researcher and Team Lead from United Nations University Institute in Macau. Thank you very much for your interest in my talk for the 5th Artificial Intelligence for Information Accessibility Conference in 2024. Today I'm going to be talking to you about women, peace, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence, and with a specific case study concerning the rise of deepfakes and their impacts on women. I want to start out by situating this work within the Women, Peace and Security agenda, which is a United Nations Security Council resolution that was unanimously passed in the year 2000 with 4 critical pillars: participation, protection, prevention, relief and recovery. This instrument was designed to address and resolve the disproportionate and unique impacts of conflict and violence that women and girls experience. 107 countries have national action plans for the Women, Peace and Security agenda as of 2023, but notably none of those, the majority of those, cybersecurity is absent in terms of its discussion, even though we've come a long way from the year 2000 in terms of our thinking about what security means. If we align the pillars of the WPS to technology and technology development, there are critical issues that we can see that we need to address for women. The first is strengthening women's leadership and meaningful participation in technology, safeguarding their human rights and safety, leveraging conflict-sensitive and gender-responsive preventive approaches to prevent and regulate gender digital security threats, and utilizing rights-based and gender-responsive technological solutions to enhance efforts in post-conflict and post-crisis contexts. These features of the WPS as aligned to technology are going to be the basis of the discussion today about cybersecurity, AI, and specifically related to deepfakes. In relating cybersecurity to the WPS agenda, we must move beyond a technocentric focus to security in online environments to a human-centric approach to cybersecurity. That is a focus on not only on protecting digital technology systems and networks, but creating safe spaces and supporting the well-being of people within those contexts. That is, we position people rather than or alongside technology as the primary subjects of cybersecurity so that human safety is the main object, and the processes and practices and regulations regarding cybersecurity keep this in mind. We know that cybersecurity is specifically and inexorably linked to human security, which is in and of itself a fundamental right. And this is something that we take into context when we're thinking about the WPS agenda as it's related to this. So rather than just human-centric cybersecurity, I take agenda's lens on this. That is, in the shift from technical to human-centric cybersecurity, we can understand the psychological and behavioral factors that inform systems, information system security, and how people in and of themselves, women and men, the role that they play in both perpetrating, preventing, responding, and recovering from cyber risks. And this here has also a focus on human rights, harms, and safeties. But we know as well that putting gender into the mix here, that women face differences in access to uses of technologies. They have different behaviors and interactions online, as well as they have lower levels of representation in education and leadership around cybersecurity and technology in general. This is what we call the gender digital divide. Oftentimes it's the case that online gender dynamics perpetuate existing power relationships and inequalities, or they take the social norms from the offline environments, and those social norms are replicated and or exacerbated online. We know from this that women experience distinct types of cyber threats, and violence tends to be more pervasive for women, and that violence also tends to be sexualized. So if we exclude gender from a discussion of cybersecurity, then our tools to meet cybersecurity threats won't meet our needs, and they won't be safe for women. They may be based on masculinized norms, and the governance of the cybersecurity environment is going to be less effective. Innovation could be stifled. And there are also major downstream effects on data and representation and emerging technological systems. One of the most critical places where cybersecurity meets gender as well as human rights is gender-based violence. So we know that overall, GBV affects 1 in every 3 women per their lifetime, but with technology facilitating gender-based violence, this number is hugely on the increase as digital technologies platforms have become vectors for gendered violence, and that they are committed, assisted, aggravated, or amplified through ICTs or digital tools. We do know that around 58% of women and girls have experienced some form of online harassment on social media, and the majority of women have witnessed violence against other women online. So this threat, the cyber threat, the violence against women in online spaces is going to continue to be one of the major challenges that we face. One of the key places where issues of violence against women and cybersecurity come together is within the discourse around AI. Specifically, artificial intelligence has enabled new mechanisms for the spread of violence against women through issues such as hateful, misogynistic, and discriminatory content, through organised and coordinated online attacks and harassment against women and girls, through technologies of surveillance that specifically target women human rights defenders or journalists working on feminist issues. But more than that, recent research has found that generative AI has some specific gender-oriented issues as well. Notably, convincing and more convincing fake media, increased volume of such fake media, new unintended forms of harms that result from AI, synthetic histories and compositional deepfakes, interactive deepfakes, and malware. You will have noticed that the majority of those contemporary issues concerning generative AI actually considered synthetic media, or more specifically deepfakes. And now I want to talk about why deepfakes in and of themselves are a gendered issue. Well, deepfake, the word, is actually a portmanteau of the concepts of deep learning and fake content. And it means synthetic media that is manipulated via AI to represent a person's likeness or computer-generated content of fake people. And these can be incredibly convincing and are getting more so as technology becomes more sophisticated. The term deepfake itself, actually, the word, comes from pornography and was used as a username of a person who engaged in fake content for pornographic reasons. And now pornography makes up 98% of all deepfake content as in 2023. This is a 400% increase in deepfake sexual content between 2022 and 23, and 99% of all that content, women are a target. So I do want to say that not all deepfakes are made for sexual gratification, and some deepfakes that have come to the fore have been particularly related to political ideologies, but most often deepfakes tend to be malicious, and they're used in a way to exercise power, or what has been called virtual domination. And for women in particular, who often have these experiences of being victims of deepfakes, they can compromise identity, damage reputation, silence a person, or self-censor or support their self-censorship, intimidate and humiliate, but they're also used very strategically to anonymously engage in abusive non-consensual behavior. Because deepfakes so commonly and so often impact women, it's really important for us to think about what those actual influences that they have are. And a whole range of research now is showing that it leads to things like offline harassment, mental health issues, helplessness, hopelessness, post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as things like suicidal ideation, as well as huge impacts and social disruption from work and from family. But deepfakes themselves, even though they have these really gendered trajectories as well as deep and important impacts on women, are very difficult to regulate. And there are few legislations that currently really protect victims or remove the content from online spaces. And that's often because that the content itself tends to be posted anonymously and very widely distributed. So some of the laws that can help protect against deepfakes are current laws are related to things like data protection, false advertising, copyright, identity theft, and specific offences related to non-consensual content, for example, claims of defamation. And some countries and regions are now imposing regulations specifically on deepfakes. For instance, the EU AI Act requires disclosure of deepfake content, but in general, the integration of deepfake content and the protection against it, specifically from a gendered lens, is very much missing from cybersecurity legislation and is missing from ways to approach the women, peace and security agenda within national action plans. So this presentation really aimed to synthesize some of the work between the Women, Peace and Security agenda, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and technology-facilitated gender-based violence. But it can also be seen as a call to action. We know that AI creates opportunities and it can accelerate development, but it can also be used to oppress and to harm. Particularly important to note here that it can recreate and reinforce existing power structures. And within the space of artificial intelligence and deepfake, the idea of virtual domination and what that looks like for women and girls is particularly important for us to consider. But design, develop, and deploy thoughtfully, it can also reduce the gender digital divide. It can support women and girls within leadership spaces. It can empower them to protect themselves within online environments. And it's very important for us to think about how to create a human-centered AI that aligns with values of developers and end users in order to prioritize human outcomes, not just for women and girls, or vulnerable and marginalized populations, but for everybody. So that would look like including human factors and outcomes at the individual and collective levels, specifically including things like who experiences violence and how that is experienced, creating human-centered design frameworks that are oriented towards human values, that protect human rights and promote human rights and represent all of humanity. I wanted to end by saying that gender-sensitive, human-centered AI can protect cybersecurity of everybody, can make the world a safer place for everybody, produce greater innovation, and a socio and economically better for everybody. So as we are moving more in towards an AI future, let's consider the complex relationships between gender, violence, and online spaces, and how artificial intelligence can be used as a vector for those violence, as well as can potentially be used as a way of disrupting that. Thank you very much.